up, everybody? Welcome back to Strange New Show, a strange new show in which Mike and I discuss Star Trek Strange New Worlds. How's it going, everybody? Excited to talk about this episode. Mike, we've both had challenging weeks, but we are here.
Oh, yes.
We are recording this the day it drops. It's almost live.
Yeah, it's going to be very live. We'll hope that YouTube can get it rendered for you so you get it before, because we got some flack. People recognize when things are late, and I do, you do, but you think you get caught in the trap of thinking nobody cares, Keith, and then you realize,
somebody does, which was exciting. I was honestly honored. I mean, to be fair, I had just had major surgery, so I was 2 hours late on dropping Deep Space Nine. But you know what? The fact that you noticed, I'm like, nice. I felt very validated.
Keith, I started to do like a gift for you. I started to, while you were in surgery, to like do the thumbnail and I was going to copy last week's and just like updo it, basically.
Yeah.
And then I realized that the crap show of, as I was like trying to make a Photoshop thumbnail, like I can fake them out for Geekly, but you like really go for it on Trek. And I realized quickly, I was like, I can't do this. I'm just going to let Keith do it in his misery.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And besides which, you have been too generous with your gifts later, already lately. So you need to cool it. It's going to be
right.
It's upsetting the dynamic of our friendship if you get too generous.
Yeah, you're right. I'm overdoing it. I got to stop.
Dude, just calm it down, man. Calm it down.
Cool it now. You got to cool it now. Lose control.
Okay, dynamic restored. I can't laugh, guys. This is going to be a very somber, a very serious episode. But before we get into what we're talking about, because today we're talking about Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 4, Memento Mori. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Buckle up, kids.
Did you Google that, Keith, or did you know what that term was?
I did Google it,
mm-hmm.
But it was part of the trivia, so.
Yeah. Well, I also thought it was cool that it's generally represented in lore in a little coin, that little coin with the little devil head on it, or a little skull head, which is like a one-to-one imagery of what we do in this episode, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
it's cool.
Pretty cool. You want to know who else is pretty cool?
Mike? You still got it, Keith.
I
still got it.
Well, I am now back down to just like extra strength Tylenol.
Oh.
So I was very cautious about the because they gave me freaking Oxy, which is.
What's your general health? So this is important. I think everybody will be.
All right.
When you're just like got a little headache, you're feeling it.
Yeah.
What is your general default number of ibuprofen / aspirin you take?
Boom, Kirkland brand ibuprofen.
How many do you
comes
take?
in giant bottles? I'm a 2 ibuprofen.
You're a 2.
Guy.
Interesting. So somebody out there is a doctor, I'm sure.
For sure.
At some point along the way, somebody, and at this point I don't remember who, someone though, told me that under 4, like, so 800 milligrams of whatever it may be, ibuprofen, acetaminophen, whatever it may be, does not have any anti-inflammatory properties. It's all pain control. So if you want any anti-inflammatory, you got it. So I've always defaulted to 4. I just take 4.
Really?
How many do you want? 4. It's been my go-to. So I'm curious, A, if there's any truth to the wives' tale I've heard, or B, if you should maybe get on the 4 train, or maybe I need to drop down before I kill myself.
I don't think that strikes me as it doesn't seem very true to me.
All right. Well, I take 4.
That strikes me as apocryphal,
every jog.
but I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure.
Apocryphal? Is that a word?
Hypocrifal should be a word.
That's pretty cool.
That's good, guys. We've just now coined a new word. Hypocrifal.
You're hypocriful as shit.
There it is. You want to know who's not hypocriful as shit? Our patrons, who are supporting our show with all sorts of support and getting all sorts of nonsense. Mike, you're going to have to do the reading today because I'm not at 100%.
We'd like to welcome Brian Kimball Beersock. Hey, is that a new name I see up there? Wyatt Elridge.
What's
welcome
up, Wyatt?
to the OK Corral. Or I'm trying to make a Wyatt Earp joke, but I got nothing. Even trying to make a joke today wasn't in the cards. Hey, Casey Clark, Jason Moe, Bren Joshua, Andrew Hayes, Jorge Navoa, and the mysterious She's Still Out There, Worf's Big Ol'
Still
Booches,
mysterious.
Richard Coleman, Charles Babbage, CRM Productions, Nikolai Ivanovich Lobichevsky, @Grim_Toys Illusions @Noon, JD Makes, Colin Dagan, Chris Mitchell, hey, that's also CRM. Pat, you're not last anymore because Josh Cronin sent a package last minute, and he is back on the list a second time. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't demand that you join them, but we sure would like if you did. You get all kinds of fun stuff. Games we're going to be playing. Did Mike download the new Star Trek point-and-click adventure game? Yes, he did. Resurgence. It's sitting right there on my desktop. It's waiting for you, Keith. It's waiting for you and me.
Oh, no.
That's going to be over on the Patreon before it trickles its way over to the feed, maybe. Also,
we'll
we got AMMs. We got stuff. Guys, I'm asking for money because it helps Keith and I offset our times. You know, Keith had surgery, and I'm in basically sweeps weeks for work. But we are putting the pause on life so we can get content to you, and we would like your help. If not, you can leave us a super tip down below. We read all of those. If you say something and you give us a little cash, we're going to read it on the internet. So
that's
get
right.
in while the getting's good. Keith, that's about all I have. I wanted to say thank you. Maybe the algorithm's working. We've got a lot of new comments from a lot of new names on our other shows on the YouTube. It is awesome engaging with new folks, old folks alike. Come on and join the team. Patreon.com/K&M.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to all the new folks. Very, very happy to have you here. So speaking of the things that the folks do, they help us with our ratings, our last week's viewer ratings for the episode Ghosts of Illyria. If you would like to have your rating read here on the air for this episode, just leave it in the comments below. You can write a treatise. You can just give us a number. It doesn't really matter. We will read it and rank it and put it in as part of the all-important algorithm here. So, JD last week gave Ghosts of Illyria 78. Dwarf's Boot Shivs gave it a 68. Jason Moe gave it a 70 for an average of 72. I'd tell you how that stacked up against ours, but I didn't write it down, and I didn't go back and look in. Folks, I have no memory of what we say or what we do on the shows. It all just happens. Mm-hmm. So I'll have to go back in and watch the last few minutes to get our ratings for the spreadsheet, because the spreadsheet is definitive.
We have a viewer that writes I don't know why I protected his identity. Delusions at Noon, and generally on the Deep Space Nine show writes a literal dissertation every week.
I almost commented today, like, please write a book.
Yeah.
Because I would read that book.
And it always makes me at the same time feel really bad about the job we do.
Yeah, we do such a shitty job compared to what Delusions does.
Also then and also the other emotion is appreciation, because it's so insightful to me as I'm learning. And you're going to hear on this episode today that there's so many things I feel like I'm supposed to know, but maybe don't. And Delusions always helps with that. But at the same time, you know, Keith, we didn't say we were going to be definitive. We didn't say we were going to be doctoral level. We said we were going to do it. That was the bar. A finish. And knocking it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, luckily, with Strange New Worlds, at the end of this episode, we'll be 40% of the way through season 1.
Oh, giant spoiler made its way to my Twitter. I got past it because they're already like things for later this season, as they're kind of recapping before we jump in June 10th to season 2. I did not read any of the words. I tried to like cross my eyes so I didn't see any pictures, but what I did see was a Captain Pike with no shirt on, Keith. Let me tell you, I thought the gray hair made me feel like less of a man. I thought just like the chiseled jaw and gorgeous hero shots made me feel less than. But when they put Ansel with no shirt and just like glistening, even on a cross-eyed scroll by, it had me question everything.
The glistening Anson through a cross-eyed scroll might have Mike at 40-something years old starting to question some of his feelings. Okay, well, I mean, hey, we're here to explore Strange New Worlds.
I love my wife, but don't we all need a little Pike? Come on.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone can necessarily disagree. Captain Pike, he's pretty foxy. But it is now time to talk about this week's episode, Season 1, Episode 4, Memento Mori, which aired on May 26th, the year 2022. It is so hard for me, because we never do stuff that took place
Feels like it was
recently.
Almost a year ago.
I'm like, 1922. No. It was literally 1 year ago, as we record this, the top song. I can't wait to hear some more of this, Mike. It's First Class, Jack Harlow.
I got raked through the coals 'cause I didn't know who Jack Harlow was, but apparently he's super talented and really hot. I thought I would know the name, but clearly I did not. But neither did JD, and that worked on me and made me feel old, but not left out in the cold, 'cause I YouTubed up some Jack Harlow, and I listened, but I didn't play it on the air, 'cause we'll get demonetized. What I came to realize a week later is I still forget what this song sounds like.
I don't necessarily know myself, but I feel pretty confident. It didn't sound like that, but that was a thing that was on the internet now. Yeah, that... Mike says, like, we're going to be too sleepy, like, we're all going to be sort of weird, but there it is, that you were rhyming, you were cooking today.
Was I?
I mean, you wouldn't have passed BMI, but you still would have been...
Trust me, my BMI is past what it should be. If you know what I'm saying.
Your BMI is past what it should be.
Hey, are
you kidding me?
It's a bullshit statistic, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've been, because like I'm trying to like make sure I'm responsibly dealing with surgery. I've got like 4 or 5 holes into me, so I'm like, like I take a picture as a reference point to make sure, and it is the least flattering picture that has ever been taken of me.
I'll tell you the good news, Keith. From what I've heard, Captain Pike only needs 1 hole, and he's gonna slingshot around and back in. You know what I'm saying?
As many times as he needs to get a clean escape. Okay, so the time...
What do you do, Keith? A lot of grunting now there. What's going on? Pike maneuver!
What is happening? I'm supposed to be the one who's messed up, Mike. The hell? All right, so the top movie...
Oh, it's only 1:30. Okay.
Whew. The top movie was Top Gun Maverick.
Yes. Oh my God.
Which took in $126 million at your movie theaters.
It saved movies. It saved cinema, Keith.
I still haven't watched it because I watched the first one to get myself back up to speed, and it was so bad I couldn't even. No matter how many times you told me the second one was better.
Especially with that, you got to listen for the sound alone. Crank that 5.1.
Yeah, but I don't. But here's the thing: I pay for the regular Paramount, so I don't get the 5.1. So there's no point.
Oh my God! This is important. HBO has turned into Max because apparently it was the HBO that was holding them back. But if you had paid for the good plan, right? If you paid the $19 a month or whatever it was, or no, $15, $14 a month you paid.
Yeah. Which
is but I like HBO everything, and it came with 4K. It came with the whole no ads. Now you're grandfathered in. You want your $15 gets you now at no ads, but no 4K. You have to pay an extra $6 for 4K. So if it's $20 a month to get all the bells and whistles.
Craziness.
Netflix is like $23. It's getting nuts, guys.
Well, I mean, but you knew as it replaces cable, they were gonna crank it up so that we ended up not saving anything.
Yeah.
Like, eventually it wasn't gonna be better.
Yeah, you're right.
Because that's always how it works. So, you know what was better? The Weekly World News headline from 20 years previous, perhaps caused by the upscales or the upcharges on Max. It's our second Great Depression. The stock markets are going to crash by July. It's almost like we defaulted on our debt. Please don't, guys.
I thought they were going to clear that up yesterday. No, didn't happen.
Not so much. Not so much, guys. Oh my goodness! Please don't do that. Anyway, also a miracle girl cries crystal tears.
Oh, that could get us out of the debt.
Ooh, look! It's the yin and the yang. We have a problem and a solution right there. So there you go. That's what was going on in the news. So now it is time to get into the episode proper.
Keith, am I Memento or Mori? You know what? You be Memento because you have a better memory than I do. I'll be Mori. You are not the father.
Thanks. Oh, okay. All right.
Some more Povich pull.
Wow. Wait, I'm the one on painkillers, not you.
You're not though.
I'm not.
This would be. You imagine how funny I would be if you were.
Oh my God,
you'd be pissing yourself over there.
Yeah, but the thing is, it didn't actually do anything for me, which is probably good. But
were you a Mori guy?
anyway.
Did you ever watch Maury Povich back in the day?
I mean, I don't think I ever sat down and watched it because I didn't hate myself enough, but I did watch plenty of Springer in college.
And he was married to Connie Chung, or is.
He was.
Yeah. He's still alive.
Is.
They're both alive and happy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We just killed them both. What was the show she was on? A Current Affair? No.
Well, I mean, she was CBS Evening News with Dan Rather in the 90s. That was a whole big thing, and then that didn't really pan out.
All right, I'm going to focus now.
Yeah. I mean, they sort of lost their credibility with the Tonya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan, became all of the story.
Yeah.
Wow, this is some old school news for a new show. All right, so this episode, I'm so trying to stay on topic. This was directed by Dan Leo, first-time director of this series, and was written by Davy Perez. This is the first of 4 episodes of Strange New Worlds. Also worked on 52 episodes of Supernatural.
Oh, cool.
Guilty favorite. And Beau DeMayo, the first of 2, who also wrote on Moon Knight and The Witcher. Which means it's time for something trivial, Mike.
Now, Keith, waste your time with trivial trivia.
All right. So the red alert notification that we see on the screen is the same from the original series films, as well as the sound effect, I believe. So we've talked about Memento Mori. It's Latin for remember that you have to die. It's sort of their version of Valhalla Margulis or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Ballard, what is that?
Jamie Beth Margolis?
Yes, perfect. We return to Nimbus 3, which, of course, if you're paying attention back to the original series films, will eventually become the planet of galactic peace in Star Trek V, everyone's favorite. So nice little dovetail there. Our guest stars this week include Genevieve Adam as Jennifer, Angela Bashara as Thandi, Ava Chung as young La'an, Kaylee Harward as Lieutenant Parker, Jennifer Way as Ensign Christina, Andre Day Kim as Chief Carl, Atticus Mitchell as Ensign Todd, Oscar Moreno as crewman Zuninga, Cameron Roberts as Manu, and Sophia Webster as Big. So we have a giant episode to get into. So what do you say we hop into the screening room, Mike?
Let's do that, Keith. I'm really excited about this one. It aired right around Memorial Day, so there was some strategic planning in there, kind of the way they slotted this.
Possibly, yeah.
I think so, because it was a year ago right now, and Memorial Day is this weekend, right? So had to have lined up pretty close.
Okay.
Anyway, this one, I won't give it away, but I am. All right, let's just roll.
Okay. So we begin with La'an giving a security officer's log. And it's Starfleet Remembrance Day, where everybody wears pins commemorating people who have died in service. This hits particularly hard for La'an, as she lost her entire family previously to the Gorn. Meanwhile, Hemmer is quizzing Uhura while she is there on engineering rotation. She's typically genius level, impressing Hemmer, sort of. Number 1 notices that La'an is not wearing a memorial pin and suggests that she get some therapy. BetterHelp. Not a sponsor of the show, but I can personally endorse. But La'an is not having any of it, so we know we're going to deal with some of La'an's trauma.
Which is cool because, just as kind of to anybody who's on the other side, or at least in therapy, it's cool because whereas you might make the comment that she's overplaying her sort of reticence, that is exactly how everyone responds when somebody's like, hey, you ever think about maybe talking to somebody? I don't need help. I'm not a victim. Blah, blah. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. No, I mean it's incredibly common, and I like the fact that they're very sort of therapy forward even in this situation. Mm-hmm. And big fans. Obviously, we've both done a ton of it.
Inside baseball, I think you'll get a kick out of this. They kept saying the Gorn, and in my head, so I knew that we looked at the action figure, right? The Gorn is who, Kirk fights that like crazy lizard animal thing, right? In
Yes.
the pro wrestling gear.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, before that pull image got into my cerebellum, all I could keep thinking was Morn.
Morn!
So for the first like a couple of times,
Terrifying. Oh God, not the Morn!
so first, like I eventually got there in my head by the time the S hit the fan, but then I started giggling because, like,
Morn killed my whole family!
yeah. Can you just see instead of that like kid, the boy smiling in the back, it's just Morn back there standing in all those like horror scenes.
That's really, really funny.
You know, quick question when we you brought before we continue.
Yeah.
When you had the IMDb up about the director, has he directed any horror films? Because the horror tropes and the horror pacing and tension and vibes in this episode are off the charts. I was like, he must do some, he or she. I believe he said it was a he.
Dan, yeah. Yes, I believe. Let me see. Directed 2 episodes of Shadow and Bone, which feels horror-y. Also some Walking Dead.
Okay, yeah.
Pretty young though.
Clearly has the bona fides, or at least the innate timing of how to pace a horror-esque element or episode.
For sure. You know, and that, I guess we'll talk about it later, but like for me, having the Gorn be the big scary bad in this situation, I think it's cool. It's great. It's just because of the Gorn's first appearance as the weird lizard guy in the costume, like they have some work to do to make the Gorn scary, which I'm glad we didn't see them.
Oh
right?
yeah, that's
Because
the best thing they did the whole episode.
it was smart that they're going to build that out. I mean, obviously, it's going to be like a thing that continues moving because we've had references to them in every episode. But yeah, they have some work to do to make the Gorn scary after how we have seen them represented so far.
But isn't that... See, I give them high marks for making a decision to say, hey, if we're retconning stuff, right, which is what you kind of have to do on a prologue series, let's take one of the big jokes because of a mistake we made, because of the limitations at the time, and let's use the embarrassment of riches we have now to fix that. Or at least, I mean, hopefully they do. I mean, I thought this was a great first step. I don't have the sort of snickering...
Well, but I don't. But but also when it first came out, it wasn't really a snicker thing.
Yeah, but it has become.
It was the
right?
60s.
So it's a chance to fix that.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I don't. I'd be curious, like what the feeling about the Gorn in general and like the general lexicon of Star Trek fans is, because like for me, it seems a little silly. We do see them in Enterprise, a little bit. So, yeah, interesting. I'd be curious what people feel about this and whether or not people are on board with them choosing the Gorn of all people to be the big bads here. But who knows?
It will come down to execution, right? Because at least the way they've set them up is very...
That's great so far.
I see it as Predator, basically. It's right. It's the lore of the Predator.
Totally. Yeah, hunting grounds. Yeah, it's very Predator.
So it's cool. The setup is great, I have to say.
So they arrive in orbit of a planet they're planning to help with some atmospheric processing, but there's nobody there to greet them. The colony's communication satellite has been destroyed, so Pike sends a landing party to investigate. They head down wearing cool combat suits, and we find that a lot of the colony is on fire. Something bad has gone down, and nobody is there but the jump-scared dog.
Awesome. Wasn't expecting it. Shot me through my chair.
Well, it's very like Resident Evil, a little bit going through here.
Alien Isolation, as you said.
Alien Isolation, such a great game, guys. Such a great game. I'm trying to convince Mike to play it. I know it's like 15 years old.
I remember why I bounced off it. Because all the stuff you love, I effing hate.
Because it's scary?
Being stalked. Like, well, there's that mechanic where random times that just sends this thing after you and you can't beat it, so you have to just hide from it. I don't love that. But it works. It works for what it's doing. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're playing, you can't fight, guys. You have to be smart. All right. Anyway,
get in the ducts. There's ducks everywhere.
You got to use the ducts. All right. Anyway, so La'an finds a bunch of blood everywhere. Yikes. On the bridge, they notice an unknown ship coming up to them, and they beam up the landing party. and we find that the ship is filled with the surviving colonists, and they're pretty beat up and need medical assistance. They can't beam over due to some sort of thing with ore in the ship, so they have to attach a space tube to get them off of the ship. So the colonists start boarding through the tube. Some, where am I? Oh god. And then they explain that something attacked them from the sky, but nobody saw exactly what happened. La'an is immediately suspicious. A little girl colonist comes running up to them saying monsters are coming. La'an asks her what she saw, says, I didn't see anything, but I heard a strange clicking noise. Which I thought that little girl did such a good job with that. Like, it was genuinely scary. I was expecting it not to be that, but she did a good job.
There's something about, I said this, and you can speak to it with your family. With sound, you don't need a lot, right? Big explosions in the sub bass are great, but when you want to build tension and scary, cut out the score and just give me a single sustained scary sound. And the choice of like a mouth noise here, I thought was really cool. It really built some anticipation. I'm really loving it. And speaking of, shout out to the score of this episode. It is symphonic. It is epic. It is horror at times. It really paints great pictures. So,
well, I think sound is an essential part of horror, because if you go back to like us as a species, as an animal, right? What was our number one way to sense danger? It's sound. Mm-hmm. More than anything else, because usually if we're being hunted by a saber-toothed tiger or whatever, they're sneaking up on us. We're not going to see it. We're going to hear it first. Mm-hmm. So those little sounds are definitely, I think, tap directly into our subconscious. Good horror stuff.
And stillness, right? Those are two things. So and we get a lot of that this episode too, which I like.
So upon hearing that, La'an looks scared, and she says, "Look out for hidden hologram ships." They realize they can't raise the shields because of the space tube. And a little ship hurtles at them and starts firing, destroying the colonist ship. And La'an says, it's the Gorn. Shit starts getting real right away. So that takes us into Act 1, where La'an has, look at the pews.
Dude,
La'an has
you want to scare the hell out of me? Give me a smiling person who's not talking. So, do you remember that movie Smile? It was right around this time, or recently. Yeah. They did the best viral marketing because they put girls that look just like this dude right here, that single smile, just because I don't know who this person is at this point. I think he's a baddie. He's scaring the hell out of me. And but anyway, they would take people smiling like this, and they would buy tickets to baseball games at all the stadiums right behind home plate. So for the whole time they're on camera, it's just a person back there like this. So good,
so smart,
so scary, and this is awesome.
Very, very smart. So La'an has a flashback to her family before waking up on the floor in battle chaos. Love the transition into battle chaos here.
So good.
The little girl is dead.
Mm-hmm.
The attack has been brutal. Number 1 is injured, and she sends La'an to the bridge. Meanwhile, Hemmer is trying to get the warp drive back up as Pike tries to get Impulse up. La'an says, it's the Gorn. We need to run. We'll never win in a fight. And she has another hallucination from her past. So we keep seeing what turns out to be her brother, standing there smiling in a bunch of these background shots. Cool. Also, I think this episode deals so much with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I think integrating stuff like this is a really great way to do that. I think they handled it really well.
Yeah, and already in the second act, or really the end of the first act, they're doing something we didn't get a lot of in the first 3 episodes, which is consequence, right? Choices, consequence. We had to save these people, couldn't get the shields up. People are dead. The colonists, dead.
Yeah.
Death. We're going to lose colleagues. It's the good guys don't get free passes anymore. And we have an enemy here who, do we even defeat them? We escape the situation. So already I'm in, because a lot of times, in a series, especially a Star Trek that we've been watching, the good guys win, right? And so it's really a question of how they're going to solve the mystery, how they're going to solve the problem, what's the MacGuffin, what are we dealing with? Here, already, there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees we're all getting out alive. Now, remember we were saying we're encroaching on halfway through the season. When are the stakes going to raise? Will they been raised? So, and I'm really, at this juncture, Keith, so in.
Yeah, no, for sure. So they realize they have to run, but they have no shields, so Pike has the idea to go into a brown dwarf in the orbit of a black hole. That is a lot going on there, space-wise, but good thing that's there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be flying blind and shieldless, but so will the Gorn. This is definitely a Star Trek trope. We go into the nebula, we go into the whatever, and then we are able to do a submarine battle here. So they fly in, still taking shots from the little ship, and there's more damage. Uhura wakes up in engineering, although it's the cargo bay we find out later, and there's more fire and destruction. And Hemmer is trapped under a big space thing. And he's got a broken hand, but they're trapped in debris.
Mm-hmm.
And uh-oh. I don't know what that thing is that collapsed on him, but it's not good.
I think it's Arctic freeze stuff. the icon, if you're just dealing with fonts, Keith, is telling me that it's cold.
It's Mr. Freeze. I would help you with the Gorn.
Arnold's inside, and he's hurting his little pinkies.
Just let me out. I will take care of the Gorn.
I must kill your little piggies.
I must kill all of you.
I don't do a good Arnold, but he has a new show, apparently. There's a show. He has a Netflix show? Yeah.
Got something. So they have a meeting and get updates from Hemmer. And he's trying to keep the ship from blowing up. And we also find out that sickbay is also down. All of their surgical stuff is broken.
You know what I was thinking? What are you thinking what I'm thinking? Is your daughter okay? Is the warp core tube still going? Is she, if everything's down again, is she...
Well,
did you back her up?
If you remember, we got the daughter her own...
warp core thing.
Well, her own power source.
Yeah. But like, what if we need it?
It's not tied to everything else. Yeah, no, I mean, it's... All of it seems pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
But, it's Star... the Star Trek is dangerous. So, also... So the ship's going to blow up from whatever Hemmer's working on. Sickbay's down. Also, the ship is beginning to heat up from the dwarf star they flew into. And it's pretty grim. It's pretty grim in sickbay. And number one stumbles in. She's got big holes in her, and they can't fire up the surgical suites. I know what that feels like. It doesn't feel good.
It's Keith.
Chapel is going to have to sew her up manually. Ouch. So, in the meeting room, we find out that we have only one torpedo left and no shields. The Gorn haven't been seen by anyone in Starfleet to the point where they're almost mythical. But La'an has, and she says they're pure evil.
You got to be a really good actor on this show because they're going to get... It's not just like 4x3 close-ups. These are those... 16:10 close-ups, which make you gigantic, and they capture everything, and really great because she does a lot of subtle acting, which is excellent in this episode. And also their choice, another great horror trope to add tension, add oppression, is to mention the heat, mention lack of oxygen, and then show it. They all start to get a little shiny, Keith, and you feel it. You definitely feel it.
Yeah, and it's La'an is a tough part. Thus far, because everybody else gets to be a little zippy and fun and quirky, but because she's a character almost entirely trauma-based, like she doesn't get to have the quick little one-liners or the fun. She's sort of like just going through the shit every single episode, and so it's a challenging part, I think, in terms of like getting us on board. I think she does a good job with that. So Pike pulls La'an aside to check up on her because she's losing it a bit and she's scaring everybody. He asks her what she remembers, and she explains that her memories are trauma inhibited and are fragmented, and continues hallucinating that guy. I don't think I've ever heard the phrase memories being trauma inhibited, but it's a really good way of putting that.
Yeah, like basically repression, right?
Right. Repressed memories, but like you know,
Keith, you turned the lights off?
I turned the lights down because my forehead was all shiny, but I think I went too far. I went too far.
We need to see the
leading into
sweat.
horror.
It helps us feel the oppression.
Was leading into the horror. Yes. So anyway, I think that's a really good way of understanding how traumatic memories work. You know, as somebody like probably knows more about this than I'd like to, right? The fragmentation it's not a light switch. It's not you have it or you don't have it. It's really complex and jumbled, and I think that they did a good job of representing that well in this show.
Yeah, my thing I've talked about on many of our shows that is scary in its own right is and that's why therapy has been great in my book, is I used to think that I could remember a series of traumatic events during a period of time, and I come to realize that the fragmented is the word. That's a great word, because all of it is wrong. The way I remember the way I've remembered it is incorrect. It is not factually based for reasons, right? But being told from other people who experienced it with me from the outside and piecing the picture together, realizing that, oh my God, I've manifested a whole series of events and created a story because we like things in nice beginning, middle, end type of stories that is just not true, right? So like my trauma can also make you a very unreliable narrator.
Well, and although I think this, well, we get into a real discussion here, you know, the way that we delete things, rearrange things, fill in holes to protect ourselves, and I think it does lead us to get some things factually wrong. But in my experience, traumatic memories are emotionally true, even if they're not factually true. And so I think that they are to be listened to and respected.
100%, yes, correct. They are not to be discounted because perhaps they are fragmented and or somewhat remembered incorrectly. Because that doesn't mean that don't discount it as didn't happen. You know what I'm saying?
100%. Anyway, if you're curious about traumatic, there's a book called "The Body Keeps the Score." One of the greatest books on trauma out there. I think it's Vanderkolk who wrote it. I forget. Anyway, if you're curious, really fascinating read. Meanwhile, Broken-Handed Hammer is having a hard time operating the coolant system because his fingers are goo. He's going to have to work with Uhura to solve the problem, and he talks her through it. On the bridge, Spock has an idea. We can triangulate movement through the space waves, creating old-school radar. Frequent Trek thing, but also smart. Like you sometimes when all of your fancy tech goes down, go low tech, because low tech always works even under these circumstances. Very cool.
The other Trek thing that I've come to love when people can sell it, because here's the thing, and here we'll talk about this with this episode specifically because they leaned heavily on it, is somebody techno jargon explanation. Somebody then quips what that means in one sentence. Distill the whole complex technical thing into one sentence that we could have just started with, just as a joke, and Pike is great at it. Some other cast members haven't found aren't as good, but it can work, and it can also get a little exhausting. Just sometimes I like the science, right? I like it's sort of like competency porn. I like to see really smart people doing really, really smart things. So if you water down everything as a joke, it does seem to grate on me a little bit. And I'm not saying we got there, but that is the fulcrum. It can.
No, I mean it is interesting though. The competency porn and the valuing intellect. Star Trek it's very West Wing like that, where we just want to watch people trying to do the right thing and be smart, because we don't see that in the world. So it becomes pornographic in its just like general sense of goodwill and competence. So they've got the old school radar going, and they spot the ship that attacked them, and it's coming right at them, but they don't know if it can see them. And once again, we're in a Hunt for Red October situation.
Exactly the pull I used.
And they keep their nerve, and it turns out the Gorn can't see them. So Pike arms the last torpedo, and the guidance system won't work, so they're going to have to drop it manually. So cool.
So cool.
They quietly fly over the Gorn ship and drop the torpedo, and it works. Pooh!
Did they drop a torpedo or a 1997 Nokia flip phone?
I mean, both indestructible. The ship is destroyed. Hooray, we solved one problem, but another problem emerges because a bunch more ships appear. It's a trap that they sacrificed their little ship to reveal the Enterprise's location. Then the mothership appears. You had to know there was a mothership coming because that little thing was not nearly scary enough. But there it is. Yikes. So we head into Act 2. And La'an...
2.
Act 2. Well, because...
The teaser, yeah.
It was the teaser and the... Well, because there's only 4 acts. At least it was broken up by commercial breaks 4 times. Because Act 1 was inclusive of the credits and ran for like almost a half an hour by itself. It doesn't really matter. The act structure doesn't work anymore in streaming. But it's just so that I know where I am.
Mm-hmm.
So La'an says, once again, we should run. But Pike says, nope, let's get deeper into the star, which will crush us. But also the Gorn ships. They evacuate the lower decks, which will be crushed first. And we're going to do the full submarine deal. We're going to dive, and hope they blow up before we do. Great. Tense. Cool. So Chapel and Mbenga are sewing up number 1, while Uhura and Hemmer keep working on the engineering problem. I wasn't 100% sure what was going on here or why.
So that is my biggest, just to put it out there, my biggest critique of the episode. It feels like they've spent so many... It just feels like they don't quite have 52 minutes of stuff, right? It's like we need one, or they're not confident in it, and they're like, we need to get one extra plot line. Like, we don't need this plot line. We don't get anything from it. I mean, we get the cool hero moment where they, like, get space pooped out and they, like, latch in. But truth be told, I think we're supposed to be learning something about her. He's teaching her. She's doing, like, an internship, and it's not great.
I don't mind the beat if I understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. Well, right? I understood that,
yes.
or even where they're doing it. Because, like, I thought they were in engineering trying to get the warp drive, and then, like, it's not that. It's some sort of a coolant thing. But if there's, like, a coolant thing that's going to make the ship blow up, why is it in a cargo bay?
Well, it's chicken or egg, because it almost feels like they know that in our final act we're gonna have to vent the storage tube. So let's heighten it even further. Let's have some people down there, and so they just like backfill in why there's people there. But there is some relationship being built, so there's some cool stuff they do. And once again, Uhura's.
I think
episode
honestly, it probably could have been solved with just one more couplet of dialogue, which might actually be there, and I just missed it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, all right, let's be very clear. Where are you? Are we in engineering or are we in a cargo bay?
Yeah.
Right? We've eventually find out we're in a cargo bay because they have to vent it and blah, 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 blah. But, all right, so if they're in the cargo bay, what are they doing? Right? We know that there's some sort of a thing that's going to blow up the ship, but what is it? What were we trying to accomplish? What are we trying to accomplish now? And how does that relate to the rest of the stuff? Then I'm like, okay, great, let's do this.
It actually never became clear for me. That's the thing. I was always lost. Every time we would return to it, I never felt like we were getting enough extra plot
I never quite understood what they were trying to accomplish here. And maybe we're just dumb. I mean, no, we are dumb.
Yeah, 100%.
And maybe I just need to go back and watch it again. But anyway, malfunctioning cooling rods. So on the bridge, we hear the creaking of the ship compressing. It's tense. So cool. And the lower decks themselves are starting to collapse. And Pike has to literally sacrifice a crew member to...
That was heartfelt.
To wall off these decks. Yikes. And Chief Kyle watches his friend die in front of him. Yikes.
Worse than die. Save his life and then die.
Yeah. Oof. Yikes.
You know what I really love, Keith? This show's doing such a great job with the creaking and also the space battles, which we'll get into. And I'm sure it was like this in Trek Past, but they were a little bit inhibited with technology and with what they could do special effects wise. But what I really think they're doing a great job of so far, specifically on this episode, is using the systems and the ship as an actual character, right? It has vulnerabilities. You root for it. We get into it later where we're like, she's going to make it. We can make it. She can hold. And we're creating a character. And then not just that, not only do we do a good job writing it, but they then are able to show it and show it do a lot of cool stuff. It gets some hero shots. It gets some shooty shoots that aren't just fodder or fill. They're actually well-paced action sequences, generally speaking. So really cool to watch and be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, the ship is a character, without question. And yeah, I mean, you have to like trust that it was engineered 10% better than the Gorn ship. Otherwise, you're toast and they're not.
It's funny when you think about it too. Like just in our general society, even so many years, not in the future, in the past, whatever. Our present is their past.
So many years, not in the future. Yeah.
But I think about things in my life. So flying an airplane, yes, we take our lives in our hands every time we get behind the wheel. But I've spent quite a few days on transatlantic crossings on a ship at the mercy of Mother Nature, and you see, feel, and hear some things, and you're like, nothing about this makes sense. I shouldn't be here. This is not where a person should be. The sea does not want me, and it will swallow you whole. On this boat that just like somehow, because
or when you're flying and you see the wings flapping.
Yeah.
But it's that flexibility is where it gets its strength. If they didn't flap, then you'd be crashing.
It's why every time it's like hero pilots, Sully, he's the hero. He landed on the lake, and yes, absolutely 100%. But how about every dude across and lady across the spectrum who worked on that plane and built the machine and put in every screw and washed it that morning that made it have the structural integrity.
100%. So we learn
everyone's sweating.
Everyone's sweating. Well, it's hot. It's hot. The Gorn want to take them prisoners, and so Pike says, "Prepare for battle. We're going to fight hand to hand." Bummer we didn't see this, but I bet we'll get there. But another of the smaller Gorn vessels implodes from the pressure, and their plan is working so far so they don't get boarded. In sickbay, they still have to do an even more horrible manual surgery on number 1, and turns out they're out of plasma. That's not good. You'd think they'd have more, but I bet it's because they're expecting the computer to be able to synthesize more, and when it's down, it's down. Maybe put sickbay on a redundant power source, just like they do the
girl
transporter, but whatever. Pike recaps.
Also, it's like I will say, into my second quibble, which I'll bring up. Number 1's journey in this episode feels a little recycled from last week. She's badass. She's going under the knife. She's badass.
Well, she also went from completely invulnerable to completely incapacitated.
Well, she's got a lot of holes in her belly.
But I know. Believe me, I know. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so
and guess what? Guess what she should not be doing after her surgery, Keith? Lifting a pool noodle man over her shoulders. They said no heavy lifting, right?
Don't lift the pool noodle man.
What's your limit? 45 pounds or something like that?
20.
Ooh.
So yeah, I can lift the little dog. That's about it.
Yeah, Charlie's probably not. Charlie's at the limit.
Charlie has not been necessarily respectful of the surgery. He's like, he hops up. I'm like, I'm here.
What's up?
What's the problem? What's the problem?
That little kneading thing.
Oh my God, yes. So Pike recaps. Our death toll is now 10. And the black hole is swallowing up the brown dwarf. So this happens to be happening right next to the planet they were at. As helpful. And turns out they've got 90 minutes before they get sucked into the black hole. Wow. That's a pretty large spatial anomaly.
Last week we complained that, and we can get into this later, but how it felt like there was too much plot, there was too many things happening. This week is equal to that, but if not more. But for some reason, the Tetraminos lock in better. for me this week. It all, like, the mounting stakes and the mounting problems, roadblocks, are designed to build the tension, to build the feeling like we're being chased, we're being hunted, and no matter what we do to escape, we keep losing ground, they keep gaining. At least that's the kind of way the pacing felt to me, and it was effective.
The worst-selling car of 1974, the GM Tetramino.
No, you know what a Tetramino is, don't you?
I don't know.
You ever played Tetris?
Yeah, sure.
Each individual block is called a Tetramino.
Really?
Yeah. And so they have to fit together nicely, otherwise you get a jumbled mess, Keith.
Okay, well, new vocab.
Mm-hmm.
Tetramino, folks. Write that down. It might be your Jeopardy. Just spell it right. So, they've got 90 minutes before they get sucked up by the black hole, and La'an and Spock decide to take the shuttle out to see if it is safe to leave, i.e. hopefully the Gorn have left. And they take the Galileo, which guarantees their safety because we see the Galileo.
Magnifico! No.
On the original series. So in Act 3, from the shuttle, La'an and Spock watch the Gorn mothership and the little ones flashing lights at each other. La'an says, I've seen them doing this before. She's trying to remember something, but she's being blocked by trauma. And she wants Spock to mind meld her, even though it's painful. I love this beat, taking us, giving us a little bit of a break from all the chaos and to dive into the emotional layers of this, which I think makes all of it have more stakes, makes all of it matter a lot more.
Also, it's like a needle drop moment, right? Because the mind meld is like a huge thing, and this is the first time we're getting to see Spock rock it here.
Yeah, on Strange New Worlds, yeah, sure. So he starts doing the mind meld, and we see more of La'an's flashbacks. And she's a child, and they're in a Gorn breeding planet. And they were brought to the breeding planet to feed the Gorn hatchlings. Very alien. Just like grim. So They move forward and see child La'an and her brother running through caves. He explains that the Gorn communicate through lights and hands her a translator that basically makes Morse code out of the lights. The brother then obviously sacrifices himself to save her. She can't see any further, but now she can translate. So, okay, a lot of cool details here.
Mm-hmm.
Gorn communicating through lights. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Interesting.
Not revolutionary, but...
No, but
effective.
As they're a reptilian species, they're not going to communicate verbally in the same way that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So, lights, it's cool. The brother, now we've got a dead brother sacrificed. That informs her character. And having the Morse code light thing, that's really helpful and makes this mind meld useful because now she can freaking translate Gorn.
That the cipher was in there, and it's probably been lost to antiquity, but I guess she memorized it, and that's why it's available to her.
Well, I mean, the capacity of our memory is still a little mysterious. What we have access to is probably different than what we've taken in and what we've stored.
Yeah, fair.
And I would imagine a mind meld would be able to. It's like EMDR or something like that. It gives you access to stuff that you don't, necessarily remember.
I actually
before.
really liked the Morse code thing because I had just watched a documentary on whale song and how whales didn't need to evolve some specific language. They're actually able to use something we think is really shortwave, but sound waves we think is really short, right? They don't travel very far, but at really low wavelengths underwater, they can travel hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles, thousands of miles, lickety split at frequencies only they can hear. So they're using a really kind of base, quote unquote, technology to communicate long distance. It makes sense that an advanced species would use light, which is even faster.
Right. And then we're killing them all with sonar, but whatever. So,
Hunt, weak. March. What's the first one?
March.
Say lunch. What do we?
Lunch.
Let's
What do you want
priorities.
for lunch?
Priorities.
Beep, beep, beep.
Let's eat something. Got to start with lunch. Then we hunt those weak bastards.
I mean, also, it's pretty silly that he's able to have broken it down into the English alphabet. Because, like, oh, they have exactly 20. I mean, this is a little bit like,
Keith,
don't look at it too hard.
It's the sixth musical
it's the
stanza.
Six ledger lines. Yeah. It's the 6 ledger lines. It's pretty well dumbed down there.
Also, is he like writing on parchment? What? I guess they're captured.
Yeah, but it's bound.
Yeah, that's good.
So luckily he's got. Anyway, don't look at it too hard. It's cool.
It's a cool. Some prop person's like, are you crazy? I spent hours on that.
Yeah, well, fair enough. It's not your fault. So now that she can translate, La'an gets a bit into Spock's head. Because the mind meld works both ways, and she becomes aware of the sister that he had that sacrificed herself for him. That, of course, we know from Disco, but Mike doesn't. So La'an has an idea. She can tell the Gorn mothership that the smaller one was taken over by humans. And it immediately wipes out the smaller ship. So smart. We have now wiped out the 2 small ships by outsmarting them.
Which is awesome.
Without ever firing a shot.
We've done that with all the problems we've solved so far, right? Except for the one time we got outsmarted, which is when we tried to use might, when we dropped the Nokia phone.
Right.
We got outsmarted. So then we were like, we got to change tactics. Like La'an said in the beginning, you can't fight them. We have to think of other ways. And so when we do that...
Very smart.
Yeah.
So in engineering, Hemmer is starting to fade. So Uhura gets him talking. We learn that he's a pacifist, which is interesting. And he has to figure out how to do all these things that meet his ethical standards. An alarm goes off. Their work was too late.
Oh, man. Updates now? Oh, come on.
Oh, man, those stupid Windows updates. We're all going to die.
We only have 90 minutes. Oh, it says working as fast as it can, Keith. It's at 6%.
And so, after all the work that we've done, we dealt with the cooling cores and we did use both of your hands to whatever. All of that was pointless because it was all too late and they're going to solve it by venting it into space, including the 2 of them. We think, but then not. So
nothing a bungee cord can't solve, Keith.
Bungee cords solve a lot of problems. So in X4 on the bridge, Hemmer reminds them they have 20 minutes remaining before the ship blows itself up, or the black hole sucks them in, or they lose the protection of the dwarf star and the Gorn blow them out of space. They got some problems. Pike has an idea to use the black hole to shoot them clear. But this, of course, would allow the Gorn to see them. Except for the concept of a gravitational red shift, an optical illusion that makes things seem like they've stopped just outside of a black hole, even though they're not there. Cool. Fun. It's almost like the Picard maneuver, where he warps out and gives the illusion that it's still there. Mike doesn't know what that is, but it's a similar concept. So they're going to fly out and drop the engineering hold into space as a decoy. So all the stuff that's in the cargo hold where Hemmer and Uhura are, they're going to just poop it out and be like, oh, the ship blew up. So Uhura and Hemmer put on spacesuits, good thing they were there, and talk about their life's purpose. They clamp themselves to the floor and get ready. Pike gives a heroic speech to the whole ship and talks about the heavy price of the day. All hands, make ready for impact. They head out towards the black hole, being chased by the Gorn mothership. And he says, hit it. So they spin in gravitational orbit. Spock vents the hold, leaving debris. Hemmer and Uhura are able to hold on barely. Ortegas flies the ship. Then there is a giant explosion in the black hole, of course making it look like the ship blew up. And the Gorn ship leaves. But the Enterprise emerges safe. It worked. They check on the cargo bay, and Hemmer and Uhura made it.
All right, hold on. I'm a little behind. Let's look at some pictures here.
Yeah, let's look at the pretty pictures.
We're going through the thing. We're at the edge. Oh, it looks like we blew up. Keith, the poop blew up.
Oh, the poop. It was just the poop. It's fine.
But the Gorn are like, yeah.
Yeah, we got them.
Oh, they were probably like, we can't hunt.
Right, because they wanted to, like...
Eat their hearts.
The Gorn's motivations are a little bit... Because, like... All right, so you want to eat the people and, like, feed your hatchlings or whatever, but, like, it's got to be a much easier way to go grab, like, 80 people than, like, fight a Federation starship.
Maybe it's not about the eating. Maybe it's more the predator. It's the thrill of the hunt, like, the, you know, but... I think we're going to come to learn much more about them.
I think you're right. So, luckily, Hammer and Uhura made it, and everyone's happy. But La'an is naturally worried about the next time they run into the Gorn, and that they're obviously opening up new hunting grounds in Federation space. Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. Hero shot.
The ship is in rough shape. But number one made it through surgery because Dr. Mbenga donated his own blood. Very cool and heroic. And after all of this, La'an is finally able to wear her memorial pin. And we see the coffins of the crew members who died, and Pike and La'an share a nod. And that is the end of the episode, although I wrote down, damn, that was a movie, not a TV episode.
A 100% a film.
That was, you know, like, obviously we're going to have some nits to pick, but, like, that was a better movie than a good chunk of the Star Trek movies we have seen.
Yeah, it was great. It was paced like a movie. It was shot like a movie. There was enough, to coin a wrestling term, false finishes to be a movie. I can't wait to talk about it.
There was some steak with the sizzle?
Yep.
All right. Well, let's go into our after show, which we don't have a name for yet.
Hit it!
Our after show called Hit It. I like it. Let's hit that bumper again one more time. That was great.
Hit it! Keith at the top doing opera.
Okay, great. There it is. I can't do opera. I have holes in me. But yeah, that was great.
Oh man, that made me laugh.
Let's talk about wormholes in the plot, Mikey.
I think you nailed it when the biggest wormholes here, because there's great specificity in a lot of the stuff, but it's so it highlights further when things aren't fleshed out, right? Namely, what's going on in the hold? What is the whole, like we talked about earlier, so I won't belabor it, but we don't really flesh out why Uhura and Hammer are down there, what they're up to, and why it's important. Why? Otherwise, like, go away, right? Don't be there when they're going to poop it out. So...
Well, no, we did know they were trapped in there by debris.
I got you, but they had to be there to be trapped, you know? Like, prior to the space cooler falling on his hand and making his hand jelly.
I make your hand jelly!
Why, right? It was just like an exercise for class. And can she just be part of the crew now? Does she have to keep, like, taking exams every episode? Can she be through?
Well, I like the idea of, you know, we introduce each type of occupation on the job.
Yeah, it is a good way to do that.
Having her walk us through it.
She's doing residencies. It is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm being jokey, but it is kind of cool. It's just I wish there was more facility or agency in for the plot for what they were doing. At least, so that's one plot hole. Followed by the bad guy is a better bad. I think they did a great way of making them scary. To me, I don't share the silly vibe you were saying before. It's to like that they have a hurdle to climb with that. So I'm starting fresh. I thought it was great. It felt very Alien meets Predator meets just a good Alien movie where we don't see the alien, right? And you're scared of it. But I would have liked, what makes a horror movie work is when you know the rules, right? And right now all we know is that they're scary and they're hunting and they don't care and it's hard to beat them. But I would like a little more of the rules. I'm sure or lore that I'm sure we're going to come to learn.
I bet we will.
I would have liked to have known it now because it makes them a little. But I guess now they're going for the just kind of ominous big bad. Yeah. So I would call that in there. Also, Well, I'll get to that in critique. So yeah, those are my major two. I didn't catch anything else that really confused me in any sort of way. I thought that they did a pretty good job of explaining all of the sciencey stuff for our slingshot, enough for me to be satisfied. I thought that they explained enough of the mechanical tricks we were using to escape them in other ways. I thought they did a good job.
Yeah. I did too. I thought it was very satisfying how they used all the resources that they had in interesting and creative ways, which I really liked. The only sort of wormhole, other than like we talked about with Hammer, the convenience of having a dwarf star being eaten by a black hole within impulse range of this planet. That's not a usual thing you find, so it was very convenient that they had one there.
I agree, but I also, to challenge that, I would agree that is its convenience, it's Deus Machina-esque, if it's introduced late. But they told us that in the first minute, right? So it's establishing the chess pieces, and we use it. So it didn't bother me as much.
That's fair. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was really fun, really satisfying. So let's talk about our best moment.
There's so many good ones. I want to shout out, Keith, could you help me with La'an's actress name?
I sure can. Let me pull it up. It's weird to have a Star Trek cast. I don't know everybody's name yet, but it is Christina Chung.
As you've said, Ms. Chung has had a tricky character arc thus far. A lot of trauma, a lot of reticence, not being particularly happy or motivated, and all that is established in lore and is. But I just thought that this was such an excellent performance. I have to shout it out. She never was melodramatic. She's never obstinate. You can see the fight. She's never hysterical, and all her growth in this episode is just it's this much, right? Her growth is this much. He says you got to be a little more positive to help the team out, and also she deals with some of her. She weeds through some of her trauma.
Yeah,
but it doesn't really fix anything, right? She just gets a little bit further. However, that little bit of movement forward feels epic, and that is good storytelling, and that is authentic trauma storytelling. When you realize that the small, teeny 1 centimeter gains are the wins, right? So, 100%. I wanted to shout that out. She just gives an excellent performance. My pick is the sequence with her and Spock on the ship, where they do the mind meld, but not just the mind meld. The beat right before and the beat right after. They tell a whole episode worth of story in that one scene. We learn about her. We learn about some of the mechanics, like I said, some of the rules of the mind meld, which some of us are not briefed on, so it was good for that. And they plant some seeds for Spock later. They're like, here's some story we can deal with another time. Awesome. And they give subtle performances, and they're sweating and crying, and it's just great. So that's my pick for best moment. Keith, to you.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's also my best moment. But for the sake of not repeating, I'm gonna pick the little girl's creepy clicks. I thought she did a terrific job. That was scary. That was interesting. That was the type of thing where like, ooh, my hackles went up. Mm-hmm. So I thought she did a really good job with that. I thought that was really fun, and it helped set up the sort of terror. And I feel like those sounds we're going to be playing with more as we get forward. So
also shout out to the guy who plays La'an's brother. He was great, and he didn't get a line till the very end.
Yeah. All right. So I think it's time to hand out some self-sealing stem bolts. What do you say, Mike?
You get some stem bolts. Hell yeah, they are self-sealing. Here are some stem bolts.
For who?
For you.
For you, Mike. For you.
I need them. So, well, you probably need them right now. Need something to seal up.
I do.
Y'all, we've been pretty measured. But let me tell you, this was a banger. This was a straight up banger. I watched it last night at like 9 o'clock, 9:30. I was exhausted. I was not feeling in the mood, but I had to get her did, and damn, did it bring the pace right from the get-go. They shoot you out. There's loss. I thought that hold on. You know how here goes a classic Mike Walker on the block. In the pilot, I had quibbles. You disagreed, but I had quibbles with the sort of grandiose nationalism-esque Pike using our history, and I was like, it's just like verging on a little too much. Here, I thought the way they handled sort of memorial and service and respecting fallen heroes at the very top, not to be that way, to be very respectful, to be very grounded, to be very impactful, and a bold way to start an episode. So it's very somber, very reflective. And I wasn't sure how the pacing would be following that kind of start, but then they shoot you out of a cannon. And this episode does kudos to everything. It is a hell of an action film. It is a hell of a horror film in many scenes.
Yeah.
And it is also a very competent, well-written, performed drama. There are stakes. Oh, also back to wormholes. Number one, what does she do in this episode? Did she have a plot? Okay, that was another.
No,
one.
she just got hurt.
Yeah. You don't have to use everybody, right? Like if you're going to focus on some people, you just focus. We don't have to have a plot for everybody. There's lessons. There's a lot of time to fill. So it's like 3 different genre films all in one. Then they start to use subtle other elements, sound design, making bold choices and using it. Not just they have an epic score at times, but then they know when to pull it back. Jump scares in a Star Trek episode.
Right.
The oppressive heat, which was something they could not follow through with. It could be something easily tossed off, but they follow through with it. They don't make a big deal about it, but that's another. Hey, we planted the seed early. We're in by this brown dwarf inside of a wormhole. It's crushing, right? We get a Hunt for Red October. We get a submarine movie. That beat is great. It feels like an homage. I bet it is, but it works. Also, Pike is captaining the hell out of this ship. He is listening to his crew. He's making life and death decisions in real time, feeling consequences, acting consequences. He's got Spock there to be like, you did the right thing, but it sucks, yes. We get introduced to the mind meld, which is an incredible sequence, and we have the technology now to do really cool, inventive types of pan shots and layering to bring that home. We also get epic space battles, ship blowing up. Keith, there's so much happening. So Mike loves. The quibbles I have is we need to find a little bit of the confidence. We're overstuffing here. We're overstuffing plot lines and developments, and it feels a little chock full. My tummy's a little full, right? I'd like to, but they kind of knew it and were able to pace really well because at the same time, that's sort of what the episode is. And then I think the resolutions along the way are all excellent. I would say, once again, Keith, to call back to the music beat we did that one episode, it feels really cool when we make the big discovery of here's the weapon to beat the baddie we discovered, and then we kind of just like use it one time, but then we have so many puzzles to solve that we don't really get to relish in the big find, the big discovery of the episode. Here it's like she finds the cipher. Well, we'll blow up one little ship with that. Well, I feel like we probably could have done more with that, right? Couldn't we have sent them a bunch of codes and got them to leave? Maybe.
Maybe.
But that aside, what do you want when you're watching television? Now, I'm not going to say when you're watching Trek. I'm going to say when I'm watching a show, I'm sitting down. I at best, I was hoping to get a really interesting episode, better than last week, which we felt a little middling about. This thing blew me back in my seat. When you watch the watch along, I'm usually gabbing the whole time. I barely say a word because I'm on the edge of my seat. Keith, I'm ready.
Let's do it.
This is my first. Well, do you have our rankings?
I do. Yeah.
What is my shoot so far?
you've given a 78 and a 79, and then last week I didn't write it down, but it was lower than that.
90 self-sealing stem bolts. Bang. Great
Boom.
episode. Maybe one of the tops of the season, who knows? But, I mean, if this is the path we're going, let's go.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, that's all right. I'm just slowly dying. It's fine. No, I mean, I really liked this episode for all the reasons that you said. I mean, it is definitely incredibly cinematic in its scale, and it feels like a movie. It feels like you definitely, I mean, it was already 52 minutes. Like, you pad this out by another 20, 30 minutes, you've got yourself a feature film. And it's interesting, like, while I've been convalescing, I watched the first two of the Abrams Trek movies. And I'm like, visually, this stands up to those $180 million movies. I mean, obviously, the advance, even in 10 years, what you can do CGI-wise is incredibly different. It's cheaper now, but, like, it looks fantastic. The stakes were really exciting. The conflict was really fun, was really exciting. I think that, you know, the conveniences and the shorthand that I think we've pointed out, I think would have been, I would have loved to have seen this at feature length and explored a little bit more the language, spent a little bit more time explaining what's going on here, making these stories more piece to piece. So, like, is it a little overstuffed? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But it was really fun and really exciting. And I think that what makes this really more satisfying and not just a whole bunch of action and pew pew, right, is the real human emotion they were able to add to this. You know, starting with the remembrance stuff, dealing with trauma, dealing with the sort of earned emotion that I think this show is doing a much better job than some of the more contemporary other Trek shows, where you have all of this emotion without necessarily having earned it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think sometimes, you know, if I have a sort of a critique about Disco, it's like you're having this huge emotional reckoning. It's like, what happened? What happened? I stubbed my toe when I was 7. You know, it's like, okay, it's not really earned. This felt much more earned. And I think that it really grounds all of the sci-fi horror chaos explosion pew pew stuff. So I found it very satisfying. I'd love to see the director's cut of this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, give me another 20, 30 minutes, really fill this out, and I think you've got a feature. That's really fun. I'm excited to see what's going to happen now with the Gorn moving forward. I was a big fan of this episode. I was like, damn, that was fun. That was exciting. I'm excited to see what happens.
Strange New World is back, baby.
Strange New World is back. I give it 92 self-sealing stem bolts.
All right, what do you
coming
got?
in hot. So if you want your stem bolt rating, leave it in a comment below here on the YouTubes. We'll be excited to hear what you think about this.
Mm-hmm.
What did we miss? What did we get right? What did we get wrong? What are we not considering? Leave it all in the comments below. It's really definitely the most fun part of the show. So, if you enjoyed all of this, Mike, what else can they enjoy from us?
Oh, Big Keith, apparently. Just like not at What did I do? I did this wrong, I guess. You can get all kinds of other stuff. Oh, you know what, Keith? I'm doing it right now. There you go.
It doesn't matter.
It matters to me.
Okay, all right.
You can get other shows. Look at this. You can also get these posters. I guess we should mention it. We're going to print these out to our patrons. So if patrons pick a poster, or if you want them all, just let me know. I got to get on printing them all and sending them out. But hit us up. But in addition, we do the shows that the posters represent, Keith. We talk about Deep Space Nine every Wednesday, drops in your feed. Sometimes a couple hours late, but guess what? It always gets there. K&M Geekly, we start your week off right. Or not. We talk on Mondays about all kinds of stuff. This week, I'll tell you about how I blew my computer up.
Yeah.
We did a whole Out of Practice podcast. That is every episode of 8 seasons of David E. Kelley's grand opus, That really kind of fell off at the end. But Keith and I did not. We powered through all the way through. And of course, you got our Strange New Show. And then on the weekends, on Sunday, we're dropping Look at My Star Trek Toys. This week, folks, we close out the Prodigy line, taking a look at Gwyn and also them all next to each other. And then next week, after that, we'll get back to our regular scheduled stuff that Keith does. We appreciate you. We appreciate anything you can throw our way in the super tip down below. But guess what? Just give us a like or a subscribe, tell a friend. And if you're listening on the podcast services of your choice, leave us a ranking.
All right. Well, boy, Mike stepped in for surgery me, which was very helpful. I appreciated that. We will see you back here next week with Spock Amok.
I was just about to say, are we going to get an episode? We got the drama, we got the action. Are we going to get, like, when are they going to try fun? Is fun something we're going to do?
I think we're probably going to do that. We're going to find out. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. So here we go. Till then, this has been Strange New Show. Keith and Mike, watch Star Trek Strange New World.
Great, succinct title.
Thank you for watching K&M Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Or become one of our patrons at patreon.com/KNM.